You are watching or listening to Purham and Associates. For more information, go to www.rpurham.com. Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to Purham and Associates. I'm your host with the most, Randy Purham. Hey, I hope y'all had a fantastic weekend and y'all stayed out of trouble and all that good stuff and didn't firebomb any Teslas or get caught up in any trade wars with a foreign country and and lose your 401k or anything crazy like that. And you just actually had a pretty chill weekend. But outside all that, we got a very special guest with us today, and I pretty excited to bring him back because last time he was on, we kind of got into some pretty heavy stuff about these this very topics. So, but had none other than Douglas Ernest, and he is the author of The Spirit of a True Patriot and the inspiring story of a retired Captain Douglas J. Ernest. He is a U.S. Army war veteran and entrepreneur. He owns a very successful Corvette car dealership in Dallas, Texas. After serving our country on the front line of Operation Desert Storm as a U.S. Army infantryman and graduating from Texas Christian University with a bachelor's degree in finance and real estate, Douglas Ernest knew that he had to develop the skill set and temperament necessary to build a thriving business. In between military duties, traveling, and training, he enjoyed the feeling of riding in a two-seater Corvette with the top down on the freeway as he traveled the U.S. serving at different units. He felt that everyone should get this experience from their vehicle. Yeah, excuse me. And because of this, he contemplated owning and running a car dealership of his own. After getting the necessary training and by working at a car dealership, he would work as a salesman for the dealership, and within a few months decided that he was ready to take it to the next level. Working 18-hour days, 7 days a week, Douglas Ernest used his savings to begin renting an indoor showroom to house Corvettes and purchased 3 Corvettes using a credit card at 18% interest, and it was there and then that Corvette warehouse was born. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the some and presenting the others, Mr. Douglas Ernest.
Good morning,
Douglas.
Randy. How are you today, sir?
Good, good. How you doing? Welcome back, brother.
Thank you. I'm
Hey,
doing absolutely outstanding.
awesome, awesome. Glad to hear it. Tell us what you've been up to the last. I think you was last on like right at the turn of the year, at the beginning of the year, January. So give us an update of what you've been up to since then.
It's a great question, and we've been working hard and smart at work. When I first talked to you, we didn't really get into the economics of our business or the challenges we had in the last couple of years. But the last 3 years, our
Hmm.
business has been decimated. We've lost millions of dollars of net worth, cash flow,
Hmm.
and I was, maybe dismal thoughts of the challenges that we were having. But the last 3 months have been extremely busy, and I know that's because of the Trump tariff policy and the slow rollout of the Trump tariff policy that gave us a chance to regroup and actually brought a fresher breath air. And actually, our sales are where they were in the top percent of our last 3 years. So we're busy at work, busy taking care of family, busy taking care of my community events and doing interviews, school, family, writing, all kind of good stuff. Just staying busy.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you there on staying the busy part. Now you said the tariffs kind of like created this kind of like an ebb and flow and kind of like a disruption there in the economic sector of it. Tell us what happened specifically with that, because I know some industries. Because I heard like for example, I was listening. I want to say yesterday or maybe day before, a couple of days ago. It may have been like the coffee industry, because some coffee industries they do imports on coffee beans, so they got hit pretty hard. And then other industries are like, well, we're not affected. It don't bother us now. We don't care. So, but you're in the auto industry, and so did it hurt you or did it help you that the terrorists are having this kind of like this yoking thing going on?
Sure, sure. And it's funny that me and you had talked before the show, and you had talked, we were
Mm-hmm.
going to talk about the proliferation of nuclearization of Iran. Here we are talking about tariffs because that's the number one thing on every news platform right now. But I'd love to put my input in because I've had a completely different experience than what the mainstream news media is portraying. My story is a story that the news media does not want you to read, they don't want you to hear, and they do not want you to understand. But in a nutshell, when President Trump was the elect, we didn't really see an increase in business, even though the stock market was going up and the stock market believes that, we believe and understand from, Franklin's book and Benjamin Graham's book over the years that the stock market's an indicator of 6 to 12 months ahead of what they believe economic activity is going to be. So we really didn't see an increase in business. And a backdrop to our business is over the last, 3 years, I have lost more money than I made in 15 years. So if you can put that in perspective, from the time I was 35 to 50, I lost 15 years worth of income. My company was decimated. We were down, 80% on cash flow. We had about 7 months left of available cash flow to sustain operations because our cash flow was so bad and we were hemorrhaging cash so bad. Now, we had gone through years of making changes. We downsized, we let people go, we changed our outsourcing partners, our vendors, we lowered the cost. I stopped taking a payroll check. We just completely made changes, but we continued to lose money. And I had known it was, the after effects of the pandemic and then the policy of the Biden-Harris administration, where it just decimated American companies and, it was beneficial to those that were importing foreign products. But once President Trump was actually in the driver's seat and he started making these slow rollout Trump tariff announcements, and it was a slow rollout, it was calculated, it was very strategic, it would just our business started just going up just a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more. And over the years, the clients that we served 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 15 years ago, the feedback we get from these customers is several of these customers had switched to import brands because they are cheaper. They're also known to have better reliability because sometimes Americans haven't done the best with their that word I'm looking for when you fix the car after the effect and so forth. And we made major changes at GM over the year, and we finally think we have a good grasp on it. But the number one was the cost, the prices. You could get a much better value from the import than you could from the American product. Well, when he started rolling out this Trump tariff rollout, very slow, it was a very methodical process, our business just started to go up slowly. And over the course of the first 3 months of this year, 2025, we've actually had the best 3 months than we've had in 4 years, which is counterintuitive to what you believe when you see, because the mainstream media is talking about the shift of the downward spiral and the American jobs are going to be lost and this and that. But for us, it's been the opposite. And for my colleagues in the car business, those that are selling imports, they are experiencing a slowdown. And we do have import trade-ins because people are now starting to trade in some of those imports. And we do have them. We're getting Beamers and Mercedes and some Porsches and so forth. And it is a decompressing of the prices of those vehicles, but the Corvettes have slowly started to go up. The American cars are starting to get strong, and we've definitely, absolutely seen an increase in business. And it's encouraging because I had thought, is this what the Lord really wants me to do if I'm having such a challenge in this business? Maybe there was something else that I would do in life as I aged, 3, 4, 5 years from now if the losses continued. So I'm extremely, extremely happy that this pivot in business came, and it was something that was completely out of my control. It was something that was in control of the government making certain changes. That was the lead up with the tariff rollout. And one other caveat, Randy, again, the mainstream media doesn't ever put this on their news channel. They don't seek out entrepreneurs like me to ask me questions, what's going on with my business. When we had this correction in the market last week, and we had the turning upside down, if you will, of the marketplace, we had the best week we had in 3 months. So it doesn't make any sense. It's counterintuitive, but people are starting to buy American again, and it's extremely encouraging.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's kind of like the push, right now. That's what Trump's agenda is: America first. Buy American, bring American companies back, build in America, buy American, and so that's the whole motive. So people are catching on to that. People are waking up to that. And then you have, I guess you could say, internal Americans that are upset at that, and so they're like, oh, we're gonna attack Americans, and we're gonna attack Elon Musk, and it's like, hello, dummy. Now you're being labeled as a domestic terrorist because you're attacking Americans. Duh. And so we're seeing the fruits of the labor of the Trump administration by course correcting, as you just mentioned, the economic policies of the previous administration, how it was hurting American companies and hurting the American brand. And so, to your other point, people are saying, you know what? I'm going to buy American vehicles. Not that, foreign vehicles are bad or anything, but there is a more of an economic benefit to buying American right now. So I'm going to take advantage of that. And so I think you're gonna see a not only an economic benefit, but a business benefit for the next few years, at least until the administration changes out. Who knows if JD Vance will continue on as the next president, or if we lose our marbles again and bring in a Democratic presidency, is yet to be seen. I think you'll be in good shape either way because it's gonna be some bleed over from the policies, and it's gonna take a while for those policies to change and take effect and whatnot. So congratulations, and,
Yes, thank you. And it's
keep a Corvette on the lot for me because I might have to come up and grab it if I can afford it. If I can afford it by then, who knows? But I wanted to like you said, I did want to talk about denuclearization because that is a hot button issue right now because the United States. I know here in Texas, I'm in some kind of like high level conversations about nuclear power, bringing nuclear plants into Texas, building nuclear facilities and what have you, and then on the other side of that conversation is the denuclearization of Iran in terms of nuclear weapons, and so this weekend. The Trump administration is supposed to go into talks with the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Arkichi, I guess that's how you say his name, and over in Oman, and I wanted to get your thoughts on being a veteran. We both was over in Iraq and everything else, and we was caught up in the weapons of mass destruction narratives and stuff like that, running around the desert looking for stuff that didn't quite exist to the tune of what was being told. But anyways,
anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
Anyways.
that's another show. That's a whole other show right there. But, I want to get your thoughts on the Iran's ambitions for a nuclear weapon and the Trump administration's ambitions to denuclearize Iran, and how you think that's going to unfold.
It all started in 2015 when the Trump administration, they pulled out of the Accord Tehran, that big power accord when there was an agreement with Tehran. And they just said, we're not going to play this game. We're not going to appease the nuclear, proliferation state of Iran. And we've seen, the opposite effect with the Biden administration, where we gave them $6 billion and unleashed cash to them. That was then later circumvented to, commit the atrocities of October 7th in Israel. that was, circumvented to Hamas. So the absolutely awful policy, botched foreign policy, if you will, the Biden administration. The Trump administration has taken a different approach, and President Trump, publicly announced talk of bombings with Iran if they were going to have nuclear weapons, which was something we didn't see in the previous administration. And then all of a sudden, after you hear that, they do want to talk. We had that quotation mark, the genuine chance that they came out with, and they're talking about Iran's always been a hard nation to deal with. When I was a child, I remember 7, 8, 9 years old, or Americans being prisoners, and that was something that was on the news every day as a child. My grandfather, my mom and dad, they would turn on the news to see what was the status of these 150 captives that were taken in Iran. So this has been a nation that our country for 50 years of my life has had challenges with keeping a relationship with. And then years later, we embolden them, our tax dollars, me, you getting up and going to work and paying taxes every day. And our money was given to them, which later led to the proliferation of their nuclear program. We now have an administration that's taking a step back and saying, no, we're not going to allow this. We're going to draw a line in the sand and say, we're not going to allow this. Our tough approach will be airstrikes in Iran. It will be bombing Iran. It will be sanctions. It will be a hard line policy. You will not get a nuclear weapon. And one of the things that does give the American people ease is that they have been significantly diminished when Israel did these strikes over there, and they've also diminished Hamas and some of the groups that support Tehran. We have been able to diminish their capability significantly, depending on what story you read online or which news flavor you take in. Their capabilities are down 60 to 85%, which is a great thing. They can't fight back. They don't have soldiers. They don't have the support of their people to be able to follow through. So I'm extremely optimistic that the Trump administration, which getting the Iranians to where we need them to be, is going to make a deal to stop the nuclearization of this weapon, which in turn will keep us safer as Americans and absolutely keep the people in the Middle East much safer.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because you're absolutely right. A lot of people probably don't follow or understand, the dynamics of the Middle East right now, and a lot of people kind of like, especially those that have this antipathy towards Israel. They have to understand the relationship in the Middle East with the United States and Israel. So Israel is a nuclear power, and they are allied to the United States. Not only for that reason, but they are kind of like the stabilizing force for the United States in the Middle East. So with that being said, they're strategically centered in the Middle East as a nuclear power to kind of keep the balance with these other guys out there. And Iran is that kind of like that outlier that's right there. And they're like, well, we're going to get a nuclear weapon too. And it's like, oh, no, the hell you're not. And if you can faffle if you want to, type of thing. And so there's this tug of war, if you will, that's been going on, like you said, for decades, and the United States has been like, okay, you took our people, you killed our people, we bombed you, we shot you, we killed some of your folks over the years. Can y'all just chill out? We're trying to be peaceful, and y'all just keep egging us on. Now you got these Houthi rebels, you got these folks, hitting our ships and everything else. Now we got to bomb these guys. Can y'all just chill? And Iran is like, nope. And so here we are, fast forward. And ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I'm kind of like being a little animated with it, but I have to be, because I have to like give you like the synopsis of what's been going on for the last 50 years. And so here we are, we fast forward, and now the Trump administration is like, okay, we're done playing these games. We've been doing this far too long. So we just finna strike you and turn you into a glass parking lot once and for all. If you can't come to the table like grown folk and talk this out and just understand that you are too radical and you are too crazy to have a nuclear weapon. And why do you need a nuclear weapon again? Because you're terrorists. We're not going to let you have that. The rest of the world is not going to stand by and let you have a nuclear weapon, because we don't even know what you're going to do with it. It's bad enough that China has nuclear weapons. It's bad enough Russia has nuclear weapons. We're going to let you have nuclear weapons? Oh, hell no. So we're not going to play this game. And so that's where we're at right now. And for where I stand with it, I agree. You know, so I think it makes sense to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons and having that capability. And kudos to Israel for doing the preemptive striking and taking out the air defense capabilities of Iran early on, late last year. Matter of fact, is when they did it. So I think Iran has no choice but to capitulate and come to the table and say, you know what? All right, we're not gonna try to build a nuclear weapon right now, but as we saw in Iraq, it was we're gonna move our operations underground, and they're gonna probably still try to do something, and you're gonna probably do it through the works of China, because China's gonna be pissed off with us, and they're gonna probably work hand in hand, and or Russia even, and they're gonna probably slip them a bomb or two and say, there you go, now you're a nuclear power as well. What are your thoughts on that?
It's the same thing. I just think about how history repeats itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I'm just to revert back to my childhood. I always, remember this. And going to college, I talked about imprinting theory, and the things that you learn as your childhood last with you
Mm-hmm.
for the whole part of your
Yes.
life. And it's a proven fact of scholarly work that whatever happened to you in your childhood will remain with you for life. Now you can take that and turn it into a good, or you can turn it into a bad, depending
Mm-hmm.
on your perspective and where you're at in this point in life. When I was a kid, it was number one Iran, then it was number two Russia, and we had, thank God, Ronald Reagan came through and saved the day and brought us to the glorious 80s where everything was great. We
Mm-hmm.
brought Russia to an agreement with America. We kept Iran under bay, and I believe that in my heart and soul that the Trump administration is going to repeat what we saw from Reagan when I was a child. As we say, history repeats itself anywhere between
Yes.
50 to 80 years. Every country you can look in history. There's a book written by a famous author called Generations. It talks about for the last 700 years, history has continued to repeat itself for nations that are democratic, and it's been going on for, since the Roman Empire. So there's these
Mm-hmm.
cycles where things go good, things are bad, and it just continues to change out. Oh, the regards to the Tehran, it's going to be challenging, but we have them very much where we need them to be right now. From the us supporting Israel, and Israel taking care of their air defense artillery, and some of their bases were decapitated from the Israel strikes.
Mm-hmm.
I have full faith and confidence in Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and the Trump administration that they're going to get the job done to keep Tehran at bay. Now, one thing that's so important why the American people need to stand strong and support the Trump administration on this, we have nuclear weapons as a deterrent to war. Iran wants nuclear weapons as a terroristic threat
Yes.
to war. They want
Exactly.
to say that we have this power. We want to use terrorism because it's a terroristic state. The regime that's ruling that nation is a terroristic state. It's been, it's boldly professes as terrorism, and how it, it uses, hostages and so forth. And it was just so discouraging for the last 4 years to see the Biden administration attempt to have this relationship with them and then give them our tax dollars
Yeah.
and allow them to have money
It's
that was
crazy.
then turned around. And in my opinion, that tax dollars that was funneled to Hamas through Iran later led to the capturing and death of American people who were Israelites living in that country. So, our tax dollars paid to proliferate this war. It's very discouraging. And the
Mm-hmm.
pendulum swung so far to the left on that side of the world that it's about halfway there. We really need to support the Trump administration as Americans so that we can keep our brothers and sisters in this country safe. We can keep, the world at peace, if you will, and we can keep like that nuclear of Israel safe in that region. And you can't do that if Tehran has nuclear weapons.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And it's crazy. To your point, the Biden administration, they actually they actually funded this war. They actually created this
Mm-hmm.
war, and blood is on their hands. I would say it was, essentially just it was basically just they started this war, and they it's borderline treason in my opinion. But I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna. That's a
But
whole
it's
that's a
something
whole
that you
nother.
can. It's okay to talk about it because it's
Yeah,
something that we just
yeah,
hope that that part of history does not repeat itself because
true.
we know about the cognitive decline of President Biden, and it wasn't him leading the country. We all seen from the debate when he was finally put in public view that he did not have the mental capacity to lead
Mm-hmm.
our country.
Yeah.
He sure as hell didn't have the mental capacity to run military strategy and deal with
Mm-hmm.
generals and so forth. Someone behind the scenes, we still don't know who that was. It was
Mm-hmm.
staffers making decisions. It could have been, some of the snowflakes that grew up, and I say snowflakes with the utmost respect, but some of the snowflakes that might have beliefs that are different
Yeah.
from the conservative view that were making decisions behind the scenes, or maybe it was Dr. Joe Biden that was making decisions, but it was just horrific
Yeah.
decision making that led to the death of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people
People.
around the
Yeah.
globe, and then the
Mm-hmm.
exit of our resources, our money. We're talking over $200 billion has been exported to Ukraine and to Gaza to be able to fund these wars. And I believe they're senseless wars. They could have been completely averted
Yeah.
if you had a strong foreign policy. And because that happened, the American people need to understand. They need to take note. They need to take rise to it because we do not want that part of history to repeat itself. As you can see, in these wars, and you've been in the war and I've been in the war, we know once you
Mm-hmm.
start the onset of war, it is so hard with
Hard
the
to
inertial
separate.
forces of war to pull back.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you put that blood on the battlefield, not only do the military and the government support it, but your people support it.
Yeah.
And you can't pull back. Most wars end by decimating the other country. We're
Mm-hmm.
in the 21st century. We don't want to decimate country. We want to make world peace. We want to bring prosperity and abundance to the world. And you can't do it as the inertial forces are propelling you forward. These wars have been going on for 2-3 years now, and we can't pull it back. We do not want another war with Iran. We do not want war with any more countries in the Middle East. We need to work to put Iran at bay and then end the Ukraine and the war in Gaza and bring peace to not only the Middle East, but to the globe.
You're absolutely right, and thank you for bringing that up because that was one of the goals of the Trump administration in 2016 was stabilizing the world,
Mm-hmm.
and by the
And we
extension,
did.
yeah,
We
we
did.
did by extension of
Mm-hmm.
that, it was through the Abraham Accord in the Middle East, and the Trump administration knew the only way that we're going to have global peace is to cut the BS out in the Middle East. And so normalizing relations in the Middle East with the countries that was at war and fashions with each other is, hey, put all your BS aside, normalize relations, let each other travel to each other's countries, embrace each other's cultures, get to know one another, have some economic relations, and that worked out. And here comes the Biden administration saying, yeah, no, y'all need to just go back to fighting. And so, and I think there was a had the Abraham Accords continued to flourish, I think, and there could be some potential here going forward. I think going in the next couple of years, I'm making a prediction here, ladies and gentlemen, and I know this is going. I'm going out on a limb. There could be a potentiality that Iran could get emerged into the Abraham Accord. I'm just going to throw it out there, and it'd be nice to for Americans and for people around the world to just take a flight and go to Iran and visit Tehran and other parts of that side of the world and say, oh wow, this is actually a nice country. Okay, cool, and go do a little shopping, and not have to worry about getting your head chopped off. So hey, I'm just saying, but I know wishful thinking. But Doug, I want to jump into our to your book real quick here because I am working on it right now. I'm like Thomas Jefferson. I read like 12 books at a time and got like 55,000 things going on. But I'm loving the poetic flow of your book here. It's a really great read, ladies and gentlemen. You got to go pick it up. And I wanted to ask you, being that your family is was well, the males in your family were military. I said how interesting it was that they were stopping you from going into the military. Go into that.
Yeah, you read the book. Yeah,
Oh
you
yeah,
read
yeah.
parts of the book. Go
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
ahead.
I'm working on it. I told you. I said that's it. That's interesting. So I tell you, and I was like I said, it's a very poetic flow. So I'm gonna get into your little emotional side there. It was pretty funny. I say, man, we got a lot in common. We're talking about basic training.
It's something I was so ironic as I just, look back in time and it's like it feels like yesterday when I was a 16-year-old boy trying to think about what am I going to do with my life. And
Mm-hmm.
I looked up to my grandfather, my two uncles that were in the military. And these men, my father and my grandfather, my uncles, did not want me to join the military. People that had been in the military, but the females in my world, they all wanted me to join the military because they looked up to my grandfather, who was the patriarch of our family, who was a leader. But my grandfather, who'd been in Korean War, my uncle who'd been in Vietnam War, my other uncle who had supported, parts of the effects of the Vietnam War, they did not want the same for their family members. And looking now, do I want my son to go to war? Absolutely not. If I can avoid that at any cost, I would love to be able to keep him out of harm's way. So I understand it now why it was. It's because out of the love, it's like a parent doesn't love you because you're strong. A parent loves you and they want you to be strong because they love you, but it's not because you're strong. If that makes sense to you, it's because they love you. They want to keep you out of harm's way, even though they know it would make you strong and abundant and give you these skill sets for life. They want to keep you away and out of harm's way. But thankfully, the females, they won that argument when I was younger. They wanted their little Dougie Poo to go off to the Army. They didn't expect Desert Storm to happen because I joined June 30th of 1990, and 32 days later, August 2nd, Iraq invaded Kuwait, and they started committing these atrocities that you hadn't seen since the Vietnam War. And the American people just said, nope, we're not going to put up with it. George Bush said, we're going to send troops. They sent the Airborne Corps in there right away, and boom, we were in another conflict. And it was overnight that happened. Looking back, wouldn't change a thing. Extremely, fortunate and guided that the Lord put me in that position, because I went from a boy that didn't understand anything. I was just in it to get college money, and I turned into a patriarch, a person that absolutely loves his country. I am not just to love my country. I am in love with my country. After traveling to the Middle East, after traveling to Mexico for 2003 and guarding the border, I absolutely love this place. And you can't ever get me to go out of this country. This is the best country on the planet. If I would never have been in the military to see some of these strategic inferences that I understand now, I would never have that feeling. For me, it was a blessing. I am extremely guided, and I am so fortunate that I had that experience. And again, it was against the will and the thinking of my male counterparts as a child, but it's something that just needed to be done. And they told me as I got older and, my grandfather passed and my two uncles are still alive, they told me now that I'm glad that you did that because your life has transformed. But at that point in life, we didn't want that for you because some of the relationships from my people in my family were never the same when they came back from the Vietnam War. So that's the reasoning behind that. But for me, there's a trade-off. Do you stay home and live with mom and dad until you're 40 years old and, playing Nintendo games? Or back then it would have been Atari. Would I be sitting in my my basement playing games, or would I be out making my own mark in life? And, and thank God I did, because my life was transformed to the best, and I wouldn't trade anything for this great life I have and the patriotism I have for our nation and the blessings that have been bestowed upon me by the Lord above.
And it's awesome. And as I'm reading it, I sit back and I start reminiscing, through your storyline, because we have a lot of commonalities in the book there, and basic training. I put the book down and I had to just catch myself from cracking up so hard because of the story about getting your wall locker dumped and the spray the shaving cream and everything else. I said, he had it pretty bad. They had it pretty bad back then, and we have a decade apart time lapse of service, and so we kind of went through the same shenanigans, but ours wasn't as bad. They didn't do that much. The drill sergeants, we had a couple that did something like that. You had to be really screwed up to get that kind of treatment. But what we did have was they would take our wall locker and they would dump it onto our bunk, and then they would take the sheets and like tie it up into a knot, and they would pile them up all up into a corner of the bay. And so when we came back from our classes, you had to sit there and figure out whose stuff was what. It was like, man, what the hell? So we had that shuffle to deal with because everybody's stuff is almost identical, so it's like trying to figure out whose stuff is what, so and then you had like 5 minutes to do it, and the drill sergeants are standing there like, hurry up. It's like, we'll figure it out later. Just take it and go. So yeah, so we had to deal with that, and then we got smart and we got Sharpies, and we like actually put our initials on stuff, and so we're not gonna go through that again. And so, but yeah, it was. I say, yeah, we went through some of the same stuff, and yes, they were abusive. You're absolutely right. But I like I said, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great book. So far, I am working through it. Pick it up. Definitely tell people how they can get this book.
If you go to my website of our business, CorvetteWarehouse.com, and you click on Meet the Owner, there's a drop-down menu there, and it just gives you a link to the book. And the book, if you take the opportunity to buy it and seize that opportunity, all the proceeds go to veterans groups and to charities that support our fellow sisters and brothers and charities, and that desperately need your help and need your resources. So anybody that would take the plunge and go ahead and get the book, it does go to good sources when the money ends up somewhere else. About 40% of the revenue ends up in a charity's hands. So I hope that everybody would I encourage you to get the book. And if you learn one thing from the book, it would have been worth the $15 you spent on it. If you just learned one thing that improves your life, it's something good. It takes the synopsis of all the skill sets that we learned in the military. You're taking care of your family, taking care of your health, and taking care of your wealth. You can't be a leader in your family, in your world, if you're broke. You can't be a leader if you're 250 pounds overweight. You can't be a leader if you don't have a relationship with the university or through your spiritual guidance. You got to have these three tripods, if you will, to be able to be a successful leader. And I've heard from many people over the years, I'm not a leader. And I've gone to these business conferences, leadership conferences, and women will tell me, I'm not a leader, I'm just a housewife. Well, shit, you're the most important leader in the country. You're developing the best soldiers on the planet. Your destiny determines what your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids are going to have. So you're absolutely a leader. Yeah. And everybody in life is a leader in some way, shape, or form. And if you can embrace that and make improvements in it, you can pass on the skill sets of leadership and make the world a better place, even if you're not intending to.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. And thank you for that, because so true. True words never been spoken. And a lot of people they dismiss, their role in life, and we end up, missing the mark in society because they just don't realize how much of an impact they can make just by simply just stepping up and saying, you know what, I am a leader, let me lead. It's just that simple. It's just really that simple, and I thank you for that, Doug. Real quick, you recently written an article. Talk about that article and where people can find it.
There's an article I wrote about the Trump tariffs, and I believe it's going to be released in Fox News of either tomorrow or Monday. And it's an article about the story of Corvette Warehouse and how, it's a story, again, I mentioned earlier, the mainstream media does not want you to hear. Most of the news networks, the mainstream media, have been extremely biased towards a conservative view. And even opinion op-eds in the Wall Street Journal that were once both-sided, they've taken a spin and taken a shift to the left and started talking smack about President Trump's administration, picking on everything they could. When the Biden administration was in, you rarely heard a peep about the atrocities that the administration was committing, the abuses of our system, the abuses of not listening to the courts, but yet they take the smallest thing of the Trump administration and they're writing op-eds about it. So I just sat down one day and I said, I'm I'm sick of just reading this crap in the Wall Street Journal. It just talks so crazy about our country. It's not true, the things that I'm reading in this mainstream media. So I wrote an article that talked about the Trump tariffs program and the slow strategic rollout of this program. And it has made a tremendous change in our business. It's made a tremendous change in my colleagues that I know that sell American products. And things are good out there and going to get better for people that sell American goods. It's going to be tough for people that sell foreign imported goods, but the president's administration on the campaign trail told the country they were going to do this, and the American people voted for this. We no longer want to have high interest rates. We no longer want to have the inflationary periods that we've had experience as a child, and now I experienced in my 50s that just decimated my business over the last 3 years. And right now we have a chance to fix the wrongs of our country that had been committed by this previous Biden administration. Good times are ahead. If people go to douglasernest.com, you can read the article. You can also read the article about Pete Hegseth. You can read some articles about the Biden administration and about what I believe is good stuff going on with Elon Musk. So I encourage everybody to go to douglasernest.com, take a look at some of the articles, and then be on the lookout, one of them for Fox News, and hopefully some other websites like American Greatness has published some of them. Actually, awesome website that conservative movement that allows us to speak our voice out there. But in a nutshell, good things are on the horizon for our country. The things you see in the marketplace the last week or two, these are just temporary setbacks. The pendulum swings back and forth, but when the pendulum swings, it's going to shift us forward. It will propel us forward. The inertial force will bring us into the country that we always dreamed of, that we could have a good uprising and a higher standard of living for all of our citizens in this country.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Hey Doug, hey, appreciate you, man. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Corvette Warehouse up in Dallas. For those that's in Texas, go up there, check out the lot, and pick up a Corvette. Put down enough of a payment so that the leftover is enough. So when I come up there, I can get one for free. There you go.
You like the thumbs up on that one.
Hey Doug, hey, I appreciate you, brother. Hey, be safe.
Yeah.
And, thanks for coming on. And
it's always a pleasure, Randy.
Yes.
And I appreciate you putting your commentary out there and working hard. Absolutely. And sometimes the hours and all the things you said you do and trying to read 12 books at one time and take care of family and business. Yes. Because when you get your message out there, it's patriots like us that can help propel the country forward, and our country needs us, because if we don't take our country back, if we don't let this nasty message that the mainstream media puts out, if we don't bring it to light about the truths that are really happening in our country, we'll go back to the same old crap that we've experienced the last 3-4 years of our life, and we can't allow that to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, thank you so much for that. And you're
man, thank you. God bless.
God bless you too. Be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Be safe. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Douglas Ernest. Hey, pick up his book. Hey, seriously, it's a truly a great read right now. The spirit of a true patriot. Douglas Ernest. Like I say, go to his website, douglasernest.com, and check that out, and get it. And the proceeds from the sale of the book goes to the charities that he's supporting. That's supporting veterans that are out there in need. So hook it up like a tow truck. And folks, it's a lot going on out there. as y'all know, it is a lot going on, and no cap, no cap. These look, you see the bookmarks. I go through. I read a lot of books at one time. You know, I pick up, read a few pages here and there when I got a few minutes, put it down, go to the next book. I got books on the coffee table, got books on my Kindle, got audiobooks, you know, when I hook up the phone in the car when I'm on the road, heading down to different counties. Got books on my laptop here, down read, you know, and as I'm doing stuff, and yeah. So the reference to Thomas Jefferson, so for those that don't know. So Thomas Jefferson had a carousel that the books were set up on, and he would spin. So if you go to ever been to Monticello, it's on display there, or it used to be. I don't know if it still is or not. But There's a he had a carousel where he would have books on it. He would read and spin a carousel, and that's the reference to that. Anyways, and I actually have a lot of friends that do the same thing. They really like multiple books at one time. That's how they get through it. And that's how when I do my annual posting of books, recommended books, that's how I get to my books, because I'm busy. And yeah. Anyways, folks, I also have my personal book project going on right now, and I do have a funding project to associate with that. So you go to givesendgo.com/book project 2025 and help support the project. It is a healthy cost, and I need your support to help get this project off the ground. So you go to givesendgo.com/book project 2025. The link is down there, right below there for the watchers, for the listeners. Book project 2025. It is in the works. I am almost finished with all the editing and everything else, and get that out the door finally, because I've been working on the book for the last few years, and finally got a publisher that said, we'll take care of this for you. But this is how much is it going to cost you? I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, you mother. Anyways, so that's what's what, folks. Let's see what else. I think that's it. It's just, man, just juggling like I'm in a circus. Folks, I'm gonna get out of here. I will be back. I believe Friday, maybe. Not sure yet. I don't know what my calendar got going on right now. But if not, I'll see you when I see you. Take care. God bless you all. Be safe, and don't do anything crazy. And yeah, holla at you. Take care and God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in today. Please be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and share, and go to rpurham.com for more information. See you all soon. Take care. God bless.